3 weeks ago in Thailand, the TCR International Series saw the most dramatic incident of the season. James Nash crashed heavily in testing, which meant an overnight battle by his team to rebuild the car. As Nash set out to repay them for their hard work, there were more dramas for several others, Gianni Morbidelli destroying his Honda in what was the most incident-packed race of the year. While bumps, bangs, great passing moves and retirements meant race 2 in Buriram will long be remembered. Third in race 1, Nash won that second race to leap into the lead of the Drivers' Series.
Such lows on the Friday night and such hard work for the team to turn it around and give them something back. You know, it was a dream of mine on the Friday night to be able to do that. To actually achieve it on the Sunday was amazing.
From Thailand, the series moves to Singapore to once again support Formula One. The setting for the two races is stunning enough, but it's when the sun goes down that Singapore really comes into its own. Like Bahrain at the start of the year, Singapore sees the TCR cars race under floodlights on Saturday night, and the street circuit is one of the highlights of the calendar. Just 6 races remain in 2016, and the championship battle is getting ever intense.
I just have to keep doing what I'm doing, being fastest in qualifying, scoring points in qualifying, which I'm the driver who scored more points in qualifying in the whole year.
I am focused now on this event, Singapore, not looking at the others just yet. If I can remain in front, then I'll be happy.
I want to return on the lead of the championship after this race.
I'm 40 points behind the leader, so now I have to be back on the podium, and with a victory it will be great.
I have 4 competitors in front of me, so it's nearly impossible to fight for the championship.
Added to the mix is a return to TCR of the winner of last year's night race, Kevin Gleeson.
I'm thankful to be back with West Coast Racing, especially here at Singapore with Formula One, the night race. It's an incredible location, and yeah, I'm just happy to be back.
Also returning after skipping much of the season is the Opel Astra TCR car. Another brand returns to the grid in Singapore. We last saw the Ford Focus in 2015, and the new FRD-built car is in the hands of Martin Chow. Practice on Friday gave many drivers their first chance to see the track, and they were inevitable moments as the levels of grip and track limits were explored. Fastest was one of those drivers making their Singapore debuts, Jean-Carl Vernet, in a Leopard Racing Volkswagen Golf GTI.
Track condition will be a lot different compared to tomorrow for qualifying on race 1.
So many similar corners, similar looking corners, they're all slightly blind as well.
You have the wall, and I love the wall. Not to it, but to do like this, I like it.
And not make any mistakes, because if you make a mistake, you're going to hit a wall.
Today I'm in fit, I'm okay, so let's see.
Qualifying was a little different in Singapore. Instead of the usual 2-part affair split into Q1 and Q2, there was only a single 25-minute session to decide the grids for the 2 races. Despite carrying 20 kilos of success ballast, Pepe Oriola was the early pace setter. But another SEAT driver was soon out of the running. Loris Huismans, driving for Target Competition, pulled up with a broken drive shaft. A bitter blow for the young Dutch driver after making a superb TCR debut here last year. With 16 minutes or so of the session remaining, Dusan Borkovic went second fastest behind Oriola. While several drivers discovered that attracting the attention of the stewards wasn't the only penalty for straying outside the track limits. Borkovic radioed his team and his wife to say he couldn't get any more than 1 quick lap out of his tyres, so he wouldn't hang on to that second place for long. Sure enough, Jean-Carl Vernet, making his Singapore debut, remember, went quicker than both Borkovic and Oriola to set the fastest lap time with around 6.5 minutes remaining. Less than 30 seconds later, Matto Homola flung the B3 Racing Seat Leon around the final few corners to set the second quickest time, a fraction over half a second slower than Vernet. Had Vernet peaked too soon? It seems so, as with under 4 minutes to go, Gianni Morbidelli was clearly on a charge. Far neater than Homola, the Italian driver stormed through the final sector to go 0.003 of a second faster than the SEAT driver, but it wasn't quite enough to catch Vernet. But after the session, a total of 12 drivers, including Morbidelli, were penalised for breaking track limits. And so Stefano Camini found himself elevated from 4th to 3rd on the grid for race 1. With the top 10 reversed to form the grid for race 2, it would be the West Coast Racing Honda Civic Mikhail Grashov, which would start from pole position. But as the checkered flag fell, the Leopard racing team could finally celebrate. It had been an anxious 6.5 minutes wait, but Jean-Carl Venet had secured his very first pole position of the season by just over half a second.
We knew that we had only one lap to make the lap time. I had the clear lap. I tried to push, to be smart, to release the brakes and try to do the best lap I was able to do, and it's what we did. So it's absolutely perfect, and now we're gonna start race 1 in pole. We'll see. Now I have to focus on to be on race mode with a good start and good first lap.
Good evening from Singapore. Good afternoon if you're watching us in Europe. This is the round 9 of the TCR International Series, and we're racing under the lights at the Singapore Grand Prix. Here is the grid, based loosely on the results from qualifying, but we've had a plethora of changes since qualifying because track limit's a little bit of an issue here. Jean-Carl Venet did set the fastest time of the morning session, the first track action we had this morning, and Matto Homola will line up alongside him on the front row of the grid. Teammate to Venet, Stefano Camini in 3rd position, and then Pepe Oriola 4th alongside him. James Nash is our championship leader. He starts 5th spot, and then Attila Tassi, the Hungarian, in 6th. Sergei Afanasiev in the 3rd of the Lukoil Craft Bamboo Seats in 7th, and Dusan Borkovic, ever flamboyant, 8th position start. Then we go to the first of the guys who were penalised. Gianni Morbidelli, Kevin Gleeson, both got penalties for exceeding track limits, as did all of those drivers. Jordi Oriola got 3 in his return in the Opel. Green flag at the back. 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. Here we go in Singapore. Who's made a good start? Well, it has been a great start from Jean-Carl Venet, certainly in comparison to Matto Homola, who makes a pretty poor start in comparison to the cars around him and gets swallowed up by the rest of the field. James Nash trying to go around the outside of Pepe Oriola to put him on the podium. They go side by side, the 2 teammates. Not only the 2 teammates, but they're also fighting for the championship. Oh, and Gianni Morbidelli, who's made a good start, gets turned around mid-pack. He should have been starting on the front row of the grid. Penalties put him back into the middle part, and now he's got some serious work to do in the West Coast Honda. Nash sticks his nose up the inside of his teammate Pepe Oriola. We do not want to see contact between those 2 cars. Richard Coleman is here this weekend to watch over his 2 drivers that are fighting for the championship. Very, very hard to manage indeed. And Oriola on the massive defensive. They've let Camini and Jean-Carl Venet go. Homola tries to go around the outside of Nash, trying to carry the momentum. Nash biffs him out the way. This now into the second half of the lap. Very technical, this part, and Homola has the inside line to take that position and put him up to 4th spot. Nash then looks down the inside once again. This is the most narrow part of the circuit as well. Stefano Camini looks racy. 10 laps of these guys to get around this 5-kilometre circuit. For the moment, you've got to say that the faster Volkswagen Golf looks to be Stefano Camini. Here is a replay of the start. Wow, the Ford spitting a huge amount of flame out of his exhausts. And then let's have a look at what happened to Gianni Morbidelli. So Morbidelli's on the inside there, and he's got his teammate beside him. Galliana's been spun round, and was that Borkovic or Homola? One of the 2 B3 racing cars spun Morbidelli. It was Borkovic. Oh, Borkovic is becoming the bad boy of TCR this season. A lot of contact with various drivers. You can't really portion the blame to him, but certainly Borkovic contact with Morbidelli. Oriola, the fastest man through the first sector of this second lap, as Kajaya and Heismans go side by side. Lois trying to go around the outside, having to start at the back of the field, but certainly fast enough to be in the top 10, that's for sure. And no way through the memorial section. It's called Memorial because just on the right-hand side there is the War Memorial here in Singapore. Peter Fullin in the Alfa Romeo comes into the pits. Very much a car in its development stage. Missed a lot of the season, or the early part of the season, as they changed the setup of that car. And it's worth pointing out that whilst all these cars are balanced so that they're equal, The Alfa Romeo does have a 1.8 litre turbocharged engine rather than the 2 litre. And talking of engine, we're hearing from the pit lane that it is engine problems for Peter Fullen in the Alfa Romeo. It's a shame. We've seemed to have lost Rafael Galliana. Here's a replay of our local driver, Douglas Koo. Kevin Gleeson under attack now from Attila Tassi, and Gleeson looks like he's losing a bit of pace. Tassi looks down the inside but can't find a way through there, but certainly Gleeson is under pressure from Tassi, and Morbidelli has been pulled into that fight as well, so it's more likely to be Gleeson struggling rather than Tassi and Morbidelli getting faster. But with that attack has come now a defenseful Attila Tassi. Yeah, Johnny Morbidelli taking liberties around the back of the circuit there, isn't he? Really taking chunks out of the curbs. And Loris Heisemans now just behind, trying to find a way past Mikhail Grashov. Both of those guys making progress from the back of the field since the start of the race. Grashov 11th, Heisemans in 12th position, both out of the points though. And the part, there is the part that's come off Heisemans' Seat Leon racer, and this is why. A little bit of contact to try and remove Grashov out of the way, and all it did was damage the radiator grille of Heisemans' car. Oh, Douglas Koo, another mistake, an attacking of Galliana's Tech Pro barriers. Oh, hang on. Well, that's Douglas Koo not braking anywhere near where he should do. And he'll be thanking Galliana at the end of the weekend that those are there, because that could have been a nasty accident. He didn't even lock up, he just went flying into the barriers. The second of the Liqui Moly Team Engster boys is now out of the race. Tariq Kajaya, the Georgian driver. That means both of their cars have retired. That's a big shame. Here's Grashov. What's going on there? Is that Grashov locking up, or that? No, it was Heisemans just behind locking up. And you can see Nash is really struggling. Now, if Sergei Afanasiev was sensible, he would leave James Nash knowing that Nash is fighting for the championship, and fighting for a championship that is going to be represented by Lukoil, as Heisemans is now in the wall. And he's also got a puncture. It was he's up, whether that was contact or it's been cut by the bodywork that we saw flying off. Heisemans has simply locked up at the end of that long straight into Memorial and gone into the barriers again. Heisemans has parked his car up, so it will be no points for Heisemans. He was out of the points anyway, but a bit of a disappointment for the Dutch driver. And he now comes around the final couple of corners here, heads towards the start and finishing line. It's been a commanding weekend so far in FP1, in qualifying, and now race one goes to Jean-Carl Venet, the Frenchman. He takes victory ahead of his teammate Stefano Comini, and Pepe Oriola picks up the third position. Oh, Morbidelli did have another go, and just a little bit of kissing at the braking zone coming out of that back corner, and we've got another puncture. Right front tyre for Nerik Wee. Oh, racing in Singapore is such a pleasure, isn't it? Jean-Carl Venet takes victory by 3.1 seconds over Stefano Comini. Then quite a gap to Pepe Oriola carrying that ballast in the Seat. Mato Homina in fourth position. Nasha, our championship leader, still just in fifth position. Afanasiev sixth. Borkovic, Gleeson, Tassi and Morbidelli, your points scorers. Wonderful sights, the wonderful Formula One podium. Piercarlo Botero presents the trophy to Jean-Carl Venet.
Yeah, it's an awesome weekend, and I arrived here. I knew that I'm gonna have to win at least a race if I wanted to be back in the championship with a championship contender, and it's what we did. So it's perfect. We never crack under pressure. That's good.
Round round 9, race 18 of the 2016 TCR International Series. And once again, we are in Singapore supporting the Formula One race. Today, though, is a very different challenge to yesterday's night race, because this is held in the very heat of the day. Here is how they'll line up then. Mikhail Kurashov is alongside Dusan Borkovic at the front of the grid on row 1. Sergei Afanasyev and Attila Tassi will start on row 2. This is reverse of the top 10 from qualifying, the provisional result. Nash and Oriola on the 3rd row, Morbidelli and Camini on the 4th, Hommler and Venet on the 5th, and then Kevin Gleeson and Peter Fullin in the Alfa Romeo will start P12. Jordi Oriola in the Opel Astra in 13th to be Kajaya, then Galliana, who's switched to Target for this weekend, and then the Asia drivers, Philippe de Souza, in fact he's in the International Series, he's driving for Liqui at Team Enxler. Martin Chow in the Ford Focus TCR, fantastic to have them here, and then Wei Ku and Loris Heismans back in the championship, being run in a brand new Target competition Seat. All the cars are now in position, all 20 vehicles. The lights illuminate, and a little creep from Brashov, but he then stops his car and gets going again. Very equal start from the top 4. James Nash had a better start, but then found himself kind of blocked in, didn't know where to go. He's going to try and go round the outside of Attila Tassi, but there isn't any space there. And all very well behaved at the front as they go through. Jordi Oriola in the Opel Astra in the mix of things. And Jean-Carl Venet doesn't look like he's made a particularly good start. So dangerous to start right in the centre of the pack. And in fact, he's now under pressure from Matto Hommler, who looks down the inside. Venet needs to be careful here not to have contact. But Hommler at turn 5 makes the move and puts Venet down 1 position into the clutches of that Opel Astra run by Kissling Motorsport this weekend. Lovely to have a new model back, and a little bit of contact between Nash and Tassi as Tassi defends the inside line. That's going to compromise their exit out of 7, and here comes Morbidelli, but he's going to find himself on the wrong part of the circuit. Hommler attacks Gleeson further back, contact between the two of them, and we've got a little bit of a traffic jam further back. I think the Opel may well be compromised. He is. And there is the start, very equal between the front 4. Look further back, a good start from Rafael Galliana in the Target Honda. He's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows back, 7 rows back. He comes across the circuit. Oriola tries to squeeze him. That's Jordi Oriola in the Opel. And this was Nashing, defending on Morbidelli. Yeah, Gleeson just turned over across the nose of Matto Hommler. Certainly not Hommler's fault. He had a little bit of a nose down the inside. Perhaps he should have backed out of it. There was only probably a 3rd overlap. Oh no! Loris Heismans has just had a disaster this weekend. Drive shaft failure in race 1, problems in qualifying. And now out of race 2 as well. Here comes Attila Tassi down the inside of Sergei Afanasyev, but Afanasyev covers it, and he's now going to run super wide. Surely Attila Tassi will have that, but no. Afanasyev has the inside line and holds the position. Not only that, but now brings James Nash into the party. Come on, Tassi. Yeah, there needs a bit of TCR, argy-bargy. Bit of contact between the two of them. Oh, no, but Tassi does too much. There's touching and then there's hitting, and he's put Sergei Afanasyev hard into the wall. And now side by side, Gianni Morbidelli goes with Oriola, and Camini's going to try and follow through, but this is the narrowest part of the circuit. Oh, and he's gone sideways, and that's compromised Oriola. Oriola's lost 4 positions in that move. This is what we were expecting. Now here comes Matto Hommler up the inside of Attila Tassi. Tassi's run wide, he's lost 2 positions. Venet's gone through. Hurrah, we've got some action in the TCR International Series. Yellow flags, though, flying around the circuit. I wonder if we're going to see a safety car. We do have the safety car boards out. Yeah, yellow flags all the way around, so no overtaking now. And that's understandable. Afanasyev hard into the wall, big damage for the Russian. Here's a replay then. Tassi goes up the inside. It was a very late defense from Afanasyev, and then Afanasyev actually turns across Attila Tassi's nose. Tassi really couldn't do much more there. It'll be interesting to see how the race director and race stewards read that, then here is Oriola, probably optimistically trying to go up the inside through this turn. The tiniest of contact puts Morbidelli sideways, but Morbidelli then spins into the path of Oriola and compromises him so that they both lose quite a few positions. The safety car is going to come in this lap. We're going to see the safety car's lights off above, and they need to really get a wriggle on now and bunch up. They're really spread out further back. Oh, James Nash has not made a good restart, and Kamini's all over him like a rash. Kamini wide on the final turn. Oh, that was Jean-Carl Benet. Nash goes defensive into turn one. Kamini looks about sending it up the inside, but it's not big enough of a braking zone to do so. Kamini knows he'll line himself up further round the lap, because as the circuit winds its way left, right, it gives the advantage to one or the other car. Again, Kamini looks down the inside. Oh, Oriola with the penalty, no way. Race direction has decided it was his fault with the contact with Gianni Morbidelli, and he's going to have to do a drive-through, and that'll be no points, and that'll be a real hammering to his championship. Kamini going super defensive on Homola. So Kamini's obviously attacked James Nash somewhere and found himself compromised, and that put him into the clutches of Homola, but now Homola's been compromised, and Jean-Carl Benet is on the tail of him. We've got a yellow flag somewhere in the early part of the lap. Benet couldn't find a way past, though, outside of Memorial. There's Douglas Koo, and he's been having a turbulent weekend. Problems in qualifying, found himself in the wall in race one. Oriola into the pits, Tassi also into the pits. He had contact, remember, so potential problem for Tassi. Oriola takes his drive through, and he's going to come out something like 12th or 13th position. Brashov still under control at the front. Borkovic can't do anything about him. Nash now under pressure from Kamini again. It always fluctuates lap after lap, almost half a lap after half a lap, and now Nash needs to worry about his mirrors, because Stefano Kamini is trying to find a way through here. With a track temperature of 50 degrees and a car 30 kilos heavier than some of his Seat rivals, 60 kilos lighter is Stefano Kamini. We've got Galliana and Wee. Oh, so Galliana tried to overtake the Ford Focus and then lost it, and actually Wee just went in avoidance. So there's been no contact between the two of them. We're hearing from the pits that it's a steering problem for Tassi, just one too many bangs on the steering rod, no doubt. These Seats are built strong, but they can't take too much of a battering. Oh, we've got safety car going out again. Oh, no, that's a shame. There is the fresh face of Attila Tassi, the next Hungarian hope. So the safety car will come in to the pits, but the drivers, I don't know if we're working to Formula One regulations here, because the safety car line dictates when you can overtake. So actually, that means that we might have overtaking in the last two corners. That was the regulation in Formula One, but it's not adopted normally by other championships. So let's see what happens here. So the yellow flags are withdrawn. The safety car line is around here. You can see then, there is the safety car line, so you can overtake from there to the end of the lap, but of course it's basically an acceleration zone, so there is no chance to overtake, and therefore the checkered flag flies. It is Grashov ahead of Borkovic, and James Nash will mount the podium in third position as your championship leader. Confirmation of the result then. Grashov takes victory ahead of Dusan Borkovic, and James Nash will mount the podium in third position. Stefano Kamini, fourth spot, Homola fifth, and Venet only sixth position. That's a shame that he wasn't able to get any more progress for the championship. There is the Drivers' Championship then, 2 points, the gap between Nash and Kamini. And then, as we say, a pretty significant gap now of 16 points down to Oriola. Jean-Carl Benet not quite as close as I thought he would be in fourth position. And then Homola fifth, Morbidelli sixth. Borkovic moves up to ninth, and look at that crash of 4 wins, but yet still only 8th position in the Drivers' Championship. And Mikhail Grashov, the Russian, is going to be very, very happy with his performance. West Coast Racing as well. And Nash is happy as well. And it's time then to get that bubbly spraying. It should be nice and cold, nice and cooling.
I know that Dusan was on my left on the second spot, and I know that I should create a gap, not to allow him to make a contact or to make something like that, like he did in the first race. So, because I know he every time really aggressive driver, so my job was not to give him any opportunity to make this.
A wonderful weekend here in Singapore. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time for the Malaysian Grand Prix. We'll see you soon.